Hi and welcome to Red Dead Redemption 2 o'clock. We're here to talk a little bit more about the hands-on that we had recently. My name is Rachel and I'm joined by Tim.
Hello.
And we're going to be talking about how our demo, which we both did together, actually turned into a bit more of a kind of murderous rampage than we meant for it to. Through some fault of our own, I think it's fair to say.
Partly it was our dark hearts, partly it was our loose command of the controls.
Because one of the big things, obviously, in Red Dead Redemption 2 is that it's gone for a really deep system when it comes to communicating and interacting with NPCs. So basically any character you see wandering around, whether or not they're part of your gang or they're just some poor person with a wagon that's unlucky enough to come into your path, you can sort of have a contextual conversation with them. You can say, hello, I like your horse, or you can say something a bit more antagonistic, and depending on their personality they'll react in different ways. So for instance, there was one NPC that we were just moseying around town having a bit of an explore, and as we were asking the people showing us the demo some questions, we were just sort of staring at this one person, and they got quite agitated, which is not something you're sort of used to from NPCs. So but the first murder was very much my fault. I didn't go into this planning to be a killer, but we'd been given the chance to, in between a couple of missions, just have a sort of wander around. So I was riding my horse, I was taking in the scenery, and it is pretty amazing. And I came across, it was a really beautiful sort of quaint old Americana scene of a small farmstead lit up with candlelight in the late hour. Unfortunately, what I didn't think of...
I already at that point, by the way, felt like it was quite ominous as you approached the farmstead with the glowing fireside lights in the windows. Like, I knew you were up to no good, basically. Like, I could see no good was going to come of this visit.
I mean, I was just looking around. My intentions were not bad. I was just curious. There was a farm with a bull, and I just thought I'll just go and do a ride by and sort of soak in some cozy little house on the prairie vibes. Unfortunately, the owner of the house saw me sneaking around and perhaps completely rationally was not happy about that and came out and just started shooting.
Was he in his ye olden pajamas at the time?
I don't remember seeing pajamas. I'd love that to be true if he was dressed as Wee Willie Winky, but I think he was. I don't think he'd got into bedroom attire yet. I think I just sort of disturbed him at his dinner. But yeah, so the guy came out shooting. At that point, it felt too late to sort of explain that I was just passing by, and it turned into a murder, which was pretty sinister on its own. But what made it worse was then I spent a long time kind of exploring his house and faffing about generally. The sun came up and then someone rode past and they saw me with the body and instantly became a witness to the murder, which
I mean, so obviously they had to go as well.
Well, then that's when you took over, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, was
Tim
that the guy who
Clark
tried to make an escape on his wagon?
Yes. Now what happened to that man?
Well, so at that point I knew we didn't want things to spiral any further out of control, so this was very much an active damage limitation. I jumped on my horse and began galloping after the witness, and it was at this point I thought, as a good reporter, I should probably test out the Deadeye mechanics for slow-mo pistol shooting. And to the horror of the watching PR folk and yourself, I activated Deadeye. I can't remember what it was. I think one of the two shoulder buttons, was it? One of the shoulder buttons. Yeah. So the game drops into slow-mo, does that kind of audio occlusion effect, and then I began painting targets on not just this man's back, but also most of them on the horse that was pulling the cart. And the lady who was watching with us, I think, gasped as this happened, as I proceeded to basically put about 5 shots into the horse's throat and then 1 into the dude riding the wagon. Which, case closed. That crime was finished at that point.
Was it, Tim, or did another killing take place on that very soil?
Well, at that point, it was daytime, And with no more witnesses, we were once again free to explore at leisure. And the person giving us the demo said, "Oh, why don't you try out the lassoing technology?" So I mean, you know, you don't say no to that kind of offer. So I began lassoing this. There was only like a bull. I couldn't lasso
One
like
lonely bull.
a regular cow. So I lassoed this bull, which was fairly easy. You just kind of spin it around a bit and then throw it, and then it was tethered. But it was absolutely furious at that point, and so it's like fighting with me and trying to pull me over. And like the only prompt I could see on the screen, well, it was the only prompt, was just kill.
I don't think there was a release option. I think once you've lassoed,
well, I think there was. Maybe you could like unequip the lasso or something, but at that point, you're not really thinking about the item wheel. And there was just a prompt that said kill on screen, and when that sort of button press flashes up, you just do it in a video game, don't you? So like Marston then gunned down the bull.
Not Marston.
Not Marston, yeah, my bad.
Morgan.
Arthur.
Yeah, Morgan.
Arthur Morgan, who is the hero. Marston's in the gang. We were just talking about this before we started this recording, which is why I've confused myself. Because Marston is in the gang, but it's a young Marston. This is a prequel.
Yeah.
And we obviously don't know what's going to happen to them because we only played for a couple of hours and wouldn't spoil it even if we did. But that brought us on then into the as with previous Red Dead, you can skin the beasts of the Great Prairie once you've killed them. But it's much less.
It doesn't coyly cut away now. It used to. There would be a splash of blood and it would cut, fade to black.
You'd hear some sort of rending of skin and a bit of sawing and stuff. But now you actually see all that stuff. He peeled off the skin of this bull like it was a bloody banana. Like it was disgusting. And then we had some debate about this because in all the horror, we kind of like your memory gets a bit shaky. But I thought he like then hacked its horns off with a little hatchet. You thought he just snapped them off. Yeah,
but I mean, like I said, I was in a bit of shock at that point. I mean, I'm no vegan, but it was pretty brutal.
Yeah, and like you could see the two nice PR folk who were giving us a demo. You could see them like watching our faces to see how we were reacting to this. And I was thinking, I was thinking this is horrible. I was thinking I don't want to see this happen like 1,000 times, which is how many times I'm probably going to kill a bull in Red Dead when we play it in October. Did you like it? Were you glad that it's more... I mean, I understand that their whole thing is they're going for like ultra detail.
I mean, it's authentic.
I don't know if I need that detail.
It did make me think. I'm sure there'll be a way.
How many bulls have you killed?
I'm sure there'll be a way for you. Did you never go on a school trip to an abattoir? What kind of school did you go to?
What? Is it real?
No. But I think two things, right? I think one, they're all going for authenticity, and I think two, there'll probably be a way that when you're out doing a lot of hunting, because hunting is a big part of, providing for the camp is a big part of the game. I think you'll be able to kind of speed through that, or at least kind of hit a button and it will just skip over.
I mean, you couldn't in the last one, I don't think.
I'd be interested to. I think it'll make a difference, because I remember killing, because your horse could die in the last one, right? In Red Dead, the original, you could, and I would summarily skin the horse. Whereas
skin your own horse.
Yeah, whereas I think this time around, both the combination of being able to have a deeper relationship with your horse and the brutality of the skinning scene, I think I'd be less inclined.
You can't just leave that unexplained. What do you mean you can have a deeper relationship with your horse?
No, not in a weird way, but like, you can feed it. I didn't mean
in a weird way.
You can feed it and groom it, and you can name them, and you can have a much you can get to the point where they'll do dressage. I mean, it's a much deeper level of equestrian feeling than I had in the first game.
That must have come back pretty heavily in the player feedback. Why no dressage in the previous game?
All the kids are talking about dressage.
In the same way as you have the kind of contextual stuff when Arthur's talking to people in town or whatever, you also could, like you're saying, interact with the horse in different ways. And I really like that they've done a kind of lead the horse by the nose animation. So you can kind of walk into town like leading your horse. That felt like a super flavorful kind of touch of like Western kind of Western like movie kind of vibes.
Yeah, I think the horse stuff is, there's going to be acres of words written on the horses, because I think there's like 19 different breeds of horse.
I mean, these were cutting edge horses, no doubt.
Yeah, I mean, we saw some
best in class horses.
We saw some incredibly dynamic horse defecation
Yeah.
And some farting, which is very realistic as someone
And
that's grown up around horses.
do you want to talk about another act of atrocity?
I want to talk about us going into town and missing
Yeah.
out on a side quest because you pistol whipped someone. So talk me through that, Tim.
So, yeah, we visited a local township which had kind of, I think it had like a barber shop and a saloon and all the kind of had a hotel which we'll come back to shortly, I'm sure. And in the town, yeah, there was a dude. Was that the dude who didn't like being stared at though? Was that how that escalated?
No, that was someone totally different. I mean, I will point out at this point as well, because Arthur Morgan, when you're doing stuff that like skinning and getting into sort of gunfights and stuff, the blood doesn't just disappear after 30 seconds. We walked into town looking like people that had skinned a bull.
Looking like absolute psychopaths. Luckily, the bull blood distracted from the fact we'd also killed a man in his who might or might not have been wearing a Rip Van Winkle night dress. I don't think he was. I think you're right, he wasn't. I've imagined that detail, but it wasn't true. But yeah, so we bumped into this dude, and we'd kind of already been tipped off that this was someone we needed to talk to about picking up a side quest, because you can kind of pick up some of these side quests just by listening to like overhearing other conversations back at your camp, or I think in town as well. But we'd barely started talking to him, and I made a mistake, which turned out to be a lethal one with the contextual controls, because like you said, you've got those different options of kind of greeting politely or being antagonistic, but I think what options you have and how the people react obviously differs like wildly depending on whether you've got your gun out or not.
Yeah, we were told, weren't we, numerous times,
stop getting your guns out.
Yeah, that having your gun holstered or unholstered is a big part of how NPCs will react to you.
It's very much the case of sun's out, please don't get your guns out.
Nice.
I didn't even plan that. So we're talking, and like mid conversation I drew my pistol, and I guess like in the real world people react badly to that. So he immediately started like freaking out, and again, like rather than holster the pistol, I went for the wrong option and immediately like smashed him in the face with the butt of the gun. He went down. I don't think he was dead at that point, but he was shortly after, because everyone kind of nearby went hog wild, and I just sort of started firing at people who were firing me, and then trying to do that classic thing of sort of like running from the town with like 10 different people chasing you, people arriving on horseback and stuff.
Yeah, we had the lawmen after us, didn't we, at that point?
Yes. Well, should we talk? I mean, basically I did the thing of kind of like having to book it out into the wilderness as far as I could to try and get the heat off me, and then resuming our exploration, but knowing that we'd lost that side quest.
Yeah, and that's what's interesting to me, is how what's the scenario if you do something like that? Is that side quest gone forever? And also, what was interesting when we rode into town, because obviously we were given a kind of slice of the game that was not right at the beginning, so things had obviously happened that we weren't quite privy to, but when we walked into town, people knew who Arthur Morgan, our character, was, and had things to say about kind of past behaviours. So you got the sense that last time we'd been in town, we'd maybe had another fight with someone, or we'd caused some trouble in the saloon. I think there's going to be consequences to your behaviour. We didn't get to play long enough to really see any consequences of our murder rampage, but I think those things are going to matter more than maybe you're used to in that kind of open world game.
Yeah, one of my colleagues kind of asked, like, how deep is that reputation system? Because the concern, I guess, is that it ends up being something like, a BioWare Paragon versus Renegade thing, where it's just you either do the bad choice or you do the good choice, and without having enough grey area, it isn't that interesting, really. They either react to you like you're a baddie or a goodie. And I think you're right. What it will do is give a lot of kind of additional flavourful context when you're bumping into people and they kind of know what you've been up to. Quite how much it actually impacts like the gameplay, I'm not sure, and in the kind of length of demo we had, it's just impossible to really gauge what's actually going on there. Like Rockstar were definitely at pains to say, it's really detailed and there's a lot going on and it's really subtle, but you kind of like wonder, well, what does it actually amount to? I mean, likewise, you were talking about kind of when you skin the animals, you can take them back to the camp as like an offering that you will then in turn, it seems that you'll get like potentially additional resources back, like you'll be able to buy.
I think the more you contribute to the camp and the healthier the camp gets, so by hunting or bringing, I think, loot back and things like that, there's basically, it unlocks fast travel. It makes there be more available in the camp in terms of items. I think the more you bring to the cook, because you do need to eat, so I think when you bring things to the cook, Pearson I believe his name is, like, he'll make sort of heartier meals, which you can, if you're there at the right time, you can choose to partake of. So I think there's a level of depth that's insane.
The camp definitely seemed cool. That was where we picked up the other like story mission type thing, which you'd be surprised to learn, dear listener, did not go smoothly either. There was a prisoner from one of the rival gangs,
the Driscoll gang.
Yeah, and he's been tortured by Dutch, the gang leader, who's kind of
threatened torture.
Well, they're threatening to have his nuts off, right? Or have his old chap off, gelding him or whatever.
I think that's nuts.
It was unpleasant. But he fairly swiftly but understandably gives up the location of the gang, and then you ride out with him in tow and a few of the other gang members, which is cool.
Including John Marston on that one, I believe.
That's right, yeah. And they use those kind of the kind of interconnecting little travel bits, much like GTA used to do, to deliver like extra kind of chunks of like character and story as you're kind of going from one place to the other. And
what you can do as well is you can choose, I think, just by sort of hitting the shoulder buttons, where you want to ride in the gang. So you can sort of go up to the front and have a conversation with the person there, or hang back and chat to someone else. You can have these kind of contextual conversations as you're riding. So we were talking to Marston because something had happened where he'd been injured, and so we were sort of checking in with him and asking how he was feeling, and how lucky he was that Abigail was looking after him, and all this kind of stuff.
So then we got to the camp. Was it kind of snowy, the camp?
No, it was in the woods. It had a sort of autumnal feel.
Okay, nice.
Dappled sunlight.
So anyway, we kind of crept up on some of the
well, we were meant to be creeping up on. So
hang on.
You got to the camp, and it was very clearly set up so that you could stealth in. So there was
a stealth mission.
Yeah, there was a couple of guys on the outskirts who were having like one of those typical sort of NPC henchman conversations of like, what are we doing out here? I don't know, but I need a piss. That kind of thing. And so one of them sort of breaks off to go behind a tree. Now, I started walking towards him. I don't know if I was waiting for some sort of stealth prompt to kick in, an Assassin's Creed style, like press.
I think you'd already decided you weren't going to stealth it, because you just whipped your gun out, and I don't. Well, no,
but the whipping the gun out was an error. Like, I didn't mean to whip the gun out, but once the gun was out, that immediately the man turned round. And then
I don't think that's true. I think you just took your gun out and shot him while he was pissed.
Don't gaslight me. Getting the gun out was accident, but once the gun was out...
It's not gaslighting if it's true.
Once the gun was out, like then it was just a spiral of murder. Because like once you fired off one shot, talking about the NPCs being kind of sensitive to your behaviour. Once you fired off one shot, it's like everyone's going for it. Like everyone's got their gun out. Everyone's running around shouting expletives at me, and that's just the people in the room at the demo. It was just, I was, and the guns.
The game actually does have like a cover-based system, right, for shooting, which you entirely neglected to use.
I know.
It was like you were tanking in an MMO, just like walking around, like taking shot after shot, which normally would have killed you. But I know. The Rockstar people they were very quietly
just healing me again. I kept seeing it come up, saying like, "Oh, your health has been restored." I was like, "Oh God, the shame." But yeah, I mean, everyone's coming at you, and there's like, it's not. I didn't feel, in a lot of shooters you play, you can get to that point where you sort of feel like pretty invincible because you're just like firing off round after round. Whereas the guns feel heavy, and they're just they feel a bit slower. So I didn't feel as kind of all powerful. Again, that was probably just because I wasn't super familiar with the controls, and but I definitely felt like less immortal than I normally would.
the controls was definitely I think going to take a little bit of getting used to. Just, do you know, as much as anything, because it's just been so long since I played a Red Dead game. It was 8 years.
Yeah.
You forget that. One of the things I thought about the demo generally was like, you forget how long you've been waiting to go back to this world. When you finish like a Rockstar game, you kind of have to almost like just put it out of your mind, because you know that, like, obviously you can still play GTA Online, but in terms of the story content, you know you're done really, and you know you're not going to be coming back for like a long ass time. So I remember like finishing Red Dead and going like, there's no point like going, oh, I wonder what they do next, because you know it's so far away. And there was like a real thrill to immediately being back in this world. Like, the first thing they showed us was a train heist mission, which I think they showed everyone the same demo, of course, so like you've probably heard about this, but the train heist demo was like fine, it was cool, but it was like a fairly, you've seen kind of action set pieces in third person games before. You can play this in first person as well. But where it kind of like the real pop of excitement came was when they handed over the controls, but you were just like staring out over the kind of this enormous Wild West vista with kind of like snow-capped mountains in the distance. You could see kind of like wagons going through you, going past below you in the prairies below, and you immediately had this sense of like, oh, I just want to kind of like soak in this game and like kind of just
compared it to kind of the Skyrim moment of when you first kind of get that sense of it opening up.
Yeah, it's like stepping out of the dungeon in Skyrim, or stepping out of the vault in Fallout, and just seeing this world splayed before you, like rendered in like modern technology, modern graphics, just looking fabulous. And it's that kind of like, you immediately get that kind of rush of potential escapism. It's such a tricky game for them to demo, I think, because like even like we had like 2 or 3 hours.
It felt like nothing. It felt
like you've done nothing. Yeah, and you've had a good time, but you really just want to be left. It's a game you want to be left alone with, and then co-op and stuff.
I mean, we didn't even kind of. There's so much. Even with just us, them letting us kind of tool around a bit in the world, there's so much. There's all the hunting and the fishing and all that, that kind of, they're just Arthur Morgan alone in the wilderness deciding to go off and hunt some bears kind of sections of it that we got no idea of. When we were in the camp, we heard sort of people talking about a haunting, like some sort of vengeful spirit that definitely is something we could have gone and checked out. There's lots of stuff with, I think, witness intimidation and sort of hanging out in the camp. And
we took a lovely relaxing bath.
We did. We had this might be something I've mentioned before, but we had a deluxe bath, which is when you are joined by a lady, but it has been confirmed to us that she was just washing our leg.
Yeah.
So
which leg?
But yeah, I just feel that's it. I feel like, we're only a month away from the game being out, and I actually feel, which is kind of exciting in this day and age to feel this way, is I feel like there's so much to explore in the game. I feel like there's a lot of big games like this that kind of, by the time you're this close to it, you've kind of seen
it all. Yeah, I mean, without doing ourselves out of work,
amount.
Do you like that about this, that there's that much that's unknown going into it? I mean, we have like a rough sense of like what the story setup is. Like the gang have done a failed bank job and are then holed up in the mountains trying to make enough kind of money to then like make a break for another location. But beyond that, you don't really know. You don't really have much of a sense of how you're going to be spending what's likely to be kind of 80 plus hours going on kind of previous Rockstar games. They're big. The last Red Dead was big.
Well, that's it. And I think Rockstar is one of the only studios that can afford to do that, to keep so many cards close to their chest. That's a saloon pun.
From having played it, what are the things that A, you're most hopeful that the game's going to do, and B, that you're kind of, do you have any kind of nagging worries from having played the demo?
Not worries. I have lots of questions about how things are going to work. So, I mean, I'm really looking forward to, I really like survival games, and so I'm really excited about just being able to take Morgan off and explore the wilderness, find all the strange little secrets and weird little nooks and crannies of the world, and go off and do some hunting. And I mean, I love animals, but just, you know, I enjoy that kind of...
That's not coming through from this podcast. I have to say.
I like that kind of that going out and, you know, having to survive. I like that as a mechanic. Question wise, like, I just, you know, I'm interested to see, I think we touched on it earlier, sort of how deep the reputation stuff goes and how that's going to work in a world where there's so much choice and seemingly so much freedom. Like, what's it actually going to mean? I mean, I know they've said that, you know, Arthur's sort of honor level will either close off some quests or open up others, or which it kind of makes me a bit nervous. I'm the sort of person that wants to see everything in a game, so I can get a bit nervy when I feel like I'm making a decision that will cancel me out of something. Yeah. But I'm excited because I feel like, knowing Rockstar, there's going to be some twists and turns along the way as well. So I'm interested to see how that works. I'm really interested to see the level of detail they've put into how your actions affect Arthur Morgan. Like, it's something we didn't even touch on in our demo, but I've heard from some of my other Games Radar colleagues that, you know, Arthur can get fat, which I found sort of fascinating. Like, to what extent does that work? Like, just a bunch of fat Arthur Morgans wandering around.
It's relatable.
Yeah, too much cheese apparently is the problem. And then obviously, like everyone else in the world, probably, I'm pretty excited to... I always felt like I was too late to GTA Online, and ever since have been a little bit remorseful every time I see sort of amazing stories about people that do role playing in GTA Online, or, you know, the people that have really like put the hours in and are now living in this kind of alternate GTA universe. So I'm really excited to be able to be there from the beginning for Red Dead Online and really commit to it and kind of build my life in the Wild West.
Nice.
Was it the same for you? Did you have anything that you were that you're particularly excited about, or you still have a question mark that you're hoping?
I think, like, just seeing it in the flesh just confirmed, like I was saying before, like, you know, when a game like that goes away, it's so kind of exciting to have it back, and it's without being unprofessional. Like, it's not a game where I have many concerns of the quality. I think, like, I'd be amazed if it wasn't a pretty sensational experience, like being back in such a high fidelity version of the Wild West. My one worry would be, like, whether or not, like, I still find it hard to acclimatise to the controls. I think, like, the fact that they're kind of so all in on detail has also meant that when you're walking around and stuff as Arthur, he's got this kind of, like, you know, like gunslinger's gait. He kind of he moves in a kind of very kind of methodical way, and I think if you've played a lot of action games, you're so used to, like, basically sort of sprinting from vendor to vendor, or like quest giver to quest giver, and like that, I guess that doesn't look realistic and doesn't look kind of westerny, so that's why they've not gone in that way. But the flip side is sometimes maybe if it doesn't feel gamey enough, you want the you know, the combat and the movement and all that to feel like super snappy and it's really hard to make a call on that, because I definitely didn't spend enough time with it, but I want it to feel like maybe more responsive than it initially felt. I'm not sure. I
think it's interesting. I think, to put that in context, listeners should know that you are a person that when they are not working or sleeping, you are playing Destiny. And I think
it's a good game. Don't listen to that.
No, I think it'll be interesting to see, like, whether or not you acclimatise, because I think Destiny... there's been other games that you've played. I think it was Far Cry, where you're so in tune now with the Destiny system, which is kind of floaty and jumpy and spacey.
I think that's true with shooters. I don't think it's true with, like, maybe third-person action games. Like, I played God of War on PS4 and really loved that. And I'm hoping it'll be the same with this. I mean, I wish they'd announce a PC version. Obviously, that's.
I'm sure they will.
I'm sure they will eventually. Guess they're busy.
Rockstar, please just announce a PC version so he stops mentioning it. That would be lovely. Thank you.
Think what the West will look like in 4K.
They can get it in 4K on PS4 Pro, Tim.
I know, but not a good frame rate.
Not PC 4K.
No.
And on that note, but no, rest assured, the game looks brilliant, and we'll be bringing you more on the next Red Dead Redemption 2 o'clock next week. So thanks very much for listening.
Thanks, everyone.